November 11th, on the anniversary of the end of World War II, to honor U.S. veterans and victims of war, Woodrow Wilson created Armistice Day, later changed to Veterans Day in 1954. On Veterans Day, we come together to show our appreciation for all who have served and protected our country. I'm Andrea Perez, and with me today is Mr. Patrick Noote and Mr. George Braun. We are here at McHenry East Campus to show our appreciation for their service. To start off, do you mind doing some introductory questions? Alrighty. To start off, when and where were you born?
Way before you guys. I was born in Chicago in November the 5th, 1942. I just turned 74. And I ended up growing up in Gary, Indiana until I was 16 and we carried on. Did you guys hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
I was born in Waukegan, so not too far from here, in September 1981. I'm 35. I just turned 35.
As a kid.
What did you do before you joined the force?
Okay, I went to college and I basically went into an officer's program there out of curiosity, and I was supposed to be a teacher, and I did get a degree in teaching. I was supposed to be a science teacher, and basically at that time I qualified to be a commissioned officer, and they offered me a flight training opportunity, and so I took that at that time, and I graduated in January 1965 from San Diego State University.
I joined the Air Force right out of high school. So what was I doing before I joined the military? Making pizzas. And I was also working for Grace Lake Park District. I was working around kids, which wound up being probably the most lasting thing that I wound up doing. I didn't do that in the military. But I signed up at 17, had my mom sign the paperwork so I could enlist, and went off to boot camp as soon as I graduated in June. Got to walk at Warren High School, and then 28 days later, I was on my way to San Antonio.
What branch of military did you serve in?
I was in the United States Marine Corps.
And I was in the U.S. Air Force.
Did you both enjoy your time in the Marines and the Air Force?
Well, if you take the word enjoy, you can add all kinds of adjectives to it. But when we're talking about an experience like this, I enjoy anything that's challenging, and I enjoy the things that I do good at better than the things I do bad at. So I even enjoyed the things I did bad at because I learned a lot from my mistakes and others and so forth and so on. So yes, I enjoyed the whole thing, and I'm glad I had the experience, and my career led me through lots of interesting experiences, challenges, and most importantly, other people that were very accomplished that I learned from, my mentors.
Did I enjoy, this is a question my kids ask and my students ask. Did I enjoy my time in the Air Force? Absolutely. I absolutely enjoyed it. I would recommend it to even my own children. I'd recommend it to any student. I wasn't that crazy about my job in the Air Force, but what I enjoyed the most about it was the relationships, the people that whether I learned, it was who I learned my career from, or the people who were learning the career with me, other kids who were just like me, coming from high school, from all over the country, that would end up being lifelong friends. So it's an awesome club that we're a part of, and I don't regret any of that. It was great.
So you say you both enjoyed aspects of it. What made you choose the branch of military that you chose to serve in?
Well, the story goes, I had a stepmother out in San Diego where I ended up going my last 2 years of high school. And my dad was a U.S. Marine in World War II. And he didn't talk a whole lot about that. He never really pushed me to go in one way or another. But my stepmother says, why don't you look into this? And so a recruiter sent a postcard, and I followed up on it. And I said, yeah, I'd like to know what my dad did and so forth, or at least relate to it. And so that's how I got involved with the Marine Corps.
I didn't have family that was in the military. I was kind of setting my own path by joining the military. And I had to choose which branch I wanted to be a part of. It sounds ridiculous. It really does when I share the story as to how I chose the Air Force. Because I saw all different recruiters. Everybody was coming into our school to try to talk to us like they do here. And I wasn't a big fan of the white uniforms that the Navy wore. And I wasn't big on the olive green or the brown that you would see typically with Marines or with Army. But I really liked the dress blue uniform. I thought that looked really sharp. It sounds ridiculous, but I absolutely chose the Air Force because I thought they looked sharp, and I was like, I can do blue. I like blue.
So you never saw the Marine Corps dress uniforms.
You know what?
Blue.
They right.
Really
I didn't realize how many uniforms Navy and Marines actually had, but yeah. So I think had I seen that, perhaps I would have changed my mind. Right? Absolutely.
What was the hardest part about adapting to your new military life? Was it the physical regimen, the food, being away from home for so long?
Hardest part about not the food. Air Force has great food, and you adapt to the physical requirements that you're being pushed to do at 4 o'clock in the morning to get up and run 4 miles. You adapt quicker than you think. That is the hardest part. It's definitely hard to be away from people you care about. I think that's something that you have to know that going into it. Like that's something you're sacrificing. And so because of that, I was somebody who always took advantage of my leave time. I would use my 30 days a year that you get to take leave. I would be home on leave a lot. And I think that was something, and that's because I really had a hard time with it. I'd want to see my grandmother. I'd want to see my family. I'd want to see my friends. I'd want to, everybody who would be wanting to know how it was going. It just made me miss them more that I wasn't around them. So that's probably the hardest part for me.
The adapting part, when you're in a civilian or even in school environments and so forth, you're accountable to yourself first. And what you have to learn to adapt to is that there's a reason for you to be where you're at, and you're accountable to somebody above you, and you're responsible for somebody below you in what we call as a chain of command. And so that was the newest experience. You don't find this in education. You don't find it in college. Even in the corporate structures, you're basically a free floater under a general administrator or something like that. In the military, you have very specific things that you have to achieve, and it's very important to the person above you and the person below you, and the organizational importance is what's more, you learn that because you haven't had that before. So that was the thing you had to adapt to. It wasn't hard, but it was a new learning experience, and you had to make sure that you went through these channels to make your thoughts known and so forth, and there's a rank structure and so forth and so on. And learning that and how to work within that to make your individuality work within this was the hardest part to adapt, but it wasn't something that was, that nobody could do. But there were people that, just basically didn't like to take orders, They did order you to clean litter change,
Where have you both served, and what was your favorite place to be?
My favorite place to be was home. But I had, since I'm older than this lad here, I have more places to tell you where I served, but I'll keep it short. When I first got my commission as a second lieutenant, I went through flight training in a couple places in the U.S. First of all, Navy and Marine pilots get trained at Pensacola, Florida. They start out there, and if you're selected for jets, you go to one place, and if you're for helicopters, you go to another place, and so forth and so on. So I served at Pensacola and Meridian, Mississippi, and I met a guy named John McCain. You guys know anything about a guy named John McCain? He taught me how to fly my first jet. He doesn't remember me, but I certainly remember him. And that's another story. But either way, we found out this years later. But who he was. And then I went to Kingsville, Texas, for advanced jet training. And then I was assigned to Marine Corps Air Station El Toro, California, in Southern California. It's not there anymore. And then from there, we trained, and I learned to fly 2 different types of jets there. And then I was deployed to Vietnam with our whole squadron. We flew the whole squadron across that pond called the Pacific Ocean. We stopped in Hawaii and Wake Island and the Philippines, and we ended up in South Vietnam. And from there, I spent about a year there, flew missions there, and then came back to Air Station El Toro doing another Air Force squadron. But at that time, you taught the pilots within the squadron as they got there. We didn't have what the Navy had down in Miramar, which was their Top Gun school, and they had another school that most Navy pilots went to that first before they went to an aircraft carrier or a Navy squadron. So the Marine Corps taught our stuff here, and I was a air combat instructor there for a year, and then I basically, I was going to get out, and I was going to stay in. Some domestic problems ensued, and I ended up getting out of the Marine Corps. But I joined the reserves back here. I was based in Chicago when I was hired by United Airlines, and I started a reserve career here. Flew other airplanes. I flew helicopters and transport planes, and I also got involved in the infantry, and then I got involved in logistics and a few other things, and we're talking. And then I was up at Norfolk, Virginia, at a senior command for Marine Forces Atlantic, and I spent about 20 years in the reserves, which was more than that, but that basically, it took me all over the place.
You were in, was that Glenn?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now that's like a strip mall
I know.
and a golf course.
I know.
Things are a little different.
The tower is still
The tower is still there at the Glen, you're right. Okay, so going into the military, for the Air Force, you go to Lackland Air Force Base, this is in San Antonio. And I didn't give much thought to the fact that would be in June, after I graduated, when it's like 380 degrees. So it was very hot when I was there, finishing up boot camp in August. From there, in order for my profession was to become a cop. In this, the police academy was at Lackland as well, so I had to stay in San Antonio. I couldn't leave. And I had just turned 18. And then from there, I drew orders to Washington State. I was heading to Spokane, Washington, and was getting ready to head to the west. It was very far away from home. That'd be very far away from here. But then there came this group of people from Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland who were looking for a few good men and women. And I threw my name in the hat. And there was about 200 of us that applied for a special duty assignment to go to Andrews and do presidential security. And I didn't know if I'd really have a chance, but D.C. was one of the areas that I had requested to go to on the East Coast. I just had a vision of living, whether it was in Boston or opportunity. I saw it as a second chance. And I was selected. I was one of like 40 that were selected to go and go off to Andrews Air Force Base. So that changed my orders from one Washington to the other, and I made my way to Andrews Air Force Base. And when I joined the military, one of the reasons I joined was that I was going to see the world. You know, I was going to get so far away from Lake County, couldn't wait. And I did the opposite of what you saw so much. That's amazing. And I wound up when you make it to a place like Andrews Air Force Base, they go through a lot of work to make sure that you are secure. You know, you have a high security clearance. You're working around the president. Everything that comes near that plane, that comes near Air Force One, has to be secure. So they spend a lot of money. They invest like $75,000 in everybody on a background check. And once you have it, that's where you stay, unless you re-enlist and do another 4 years and go somewhere else. So my primary duty location was Andrews in Maryland. It was about 15 minutes from Washington, D.C. And from there, that's where I did the majority of my career. After September 11th, we all were deployed different places. And so my name was called to go to Oman was my overseas duty that I did, which was, it's a very southernmost country in the Middle East. So right there by the Gulf, by the Persian Gulf there, right next to like Saudi Arabia and Iraq and all those countries. Oman is right there at the very tip there of this, it's like a peninsula there. And I did some time out there. That was a staging location. At that point in 2002, we were trying to, we were going after Al-Qaeda, and that was in Afghanistan. So that's a long trip by plane. We had to have a staging location, and that was our base for Special Forces. We would have a lot of aircraft that would fly into Oman and then make that 12-hour trip to Afghanistan. So that was the majority of my career between those. Those were the locations I saw. I wanted to see the world, and in 6 years I did most of my traveling in my off time on the East Coast. I would see places like that's the benefit of being in a place like Maryland. You know, we take it for granted when we're in the Midwest. Things seem so far away, but when you're on the East Coast, all those states are right there. So we're like 2 hours from Philadelphia, or 6 hours from Boston, and 5 hours from New York City with traffic. So we would spend a lot of time going to those places on our free time. But I got to see the world.
What's interesting about this, the person that just won a seat on the Cook County or the McHenry County Board, Greg Wilcox, who's your commanding officer, she didn't know that. He was in charge of the president's plane, and that whole organization that runs it was up here. Yeah, but that's just the irony of that thing. The other part about where he was in Oman, of course, my positions in Norfolk, we were Marine Forces Atlantic, and that whole territory is part of that command structure. I'm very familiar with the United Arab Emirates, and Oman was right there, and Bahrain, and all that stuff, and the stuff that happened in the 90s when they invaded Iraq, invaded Kuwait, and all that stuff all ties together in history. And I don't know how much time you get to study those types of things in your history classes, but I'm sure it's been mentioned that it was right where all the action is. It's still where all the action is.
Right, so.
And that's the biggest area that concern for the United States and all the free world countries.
Okay, so you guys have mentioned that you've been to many places, and I assume you've spoken to different residents of these places. How was that interaction between you and the people?
I had this experience, but I didn't have it through the military because I had a top secret clearance at that time, and I'm sure you had a similar type of clearance at that time. You don't interact with the civilians in that area or the civilian governments directly when you're involved in the military, unless it has to do with a military conflict or some military presence traveled around in that area after the fact, and I did run into people around the world, like in Hong Kong when I was there, that were from other countries, and we had conversations at that time. And I always like to, talk to them and ask them about what I saw as the world was being laid out through our newspapers and television, and to how they looked at things from their point of view. And it is different, and it's not in conflict, but they have their priorities are different than our priorities. And so every time I got a chance to talk to somebody that was from another country, and I had engaged them in a conversation, we'd probably be in some bar somewhere, but there was a social area, it wasn't a formal area. I did get briefings for other reasons, but there is a different point of view from different parts of the world, even if you're in the free country, because their priorities are different for different reasons. But, we all relate to the same interests and concerns.
One of the really cool things about Andrews Air Force Base is the people that come through it. So while I did have interactions when I would be overseas, like when I was in Oman, we actually would work alongside, and that's kind of common whether that was in Vietnam or when we're in another host nation, you do become reliant on the host nation's people. So we did have interactions with some of those. We would work at night with Omani people and stuff. But I think some of the most interesting interactions I had with people from around the world, because Andrews Air Force Base is the place where so many people come, that it's not just our president or our, the cabinet members or, the different secretaries, the first lady, vice president, all those, of course, are in and out of Andrews. But everybody who comes to visit the White House, who wants to talk to the president, so that's other foreign leaders, would come by, and they come by in their residence or their King's Air Force One, right? And so I did have quite a bit of interaction with security from other country, and it was fascinating. It was some of the greatest conversations. I mean, it would take hours. We'd be trading things, of course, different food and things that they have on their plane, and I would always get things for them. But presidential M&Ms, they love that. They eat that up. But interacting with people who would be like the security for the King of Jordan or the Israeli prime ministers. I had a really, really thoughtful conversation with the Israeli prime minister's guards, and they were talking about what their home life is like. And this was right after September 11th, and it was almost like we had this conversation of what you are experiencing is our everyday. This fear of going to places like bus stops and malls and now we think of it and it's like, mass shootings and things like that we experience now in America. These tragedies are something that Israel and Palestine, these things have been going on for a long time. And talking to them, I remember one conversation in particular with this gentleman was talking a lot about our pledge allegiance to the flag. We had an hour conversation about that, and he just couldn't stop talking about how wonderful it must be to be in a country full of people who are so proud of the flag, proud of our country. And I'm like, man, it's not always that way though. It wasn't always that way. And I remember after September 11th, you saw it. I mean, it was in full force then. Flags on every house and everything like that. But it was interesting to hear that from a perspective of somebody who was an outsider who looks up to us, and him in particular. I mean, in Israel, if you aren't disabled, you join the military, and that's how countries do it. Whereas when he found out that I enlisted to do it, just because I wanted to, I had a choice to do it. I could go to college and do whatever I wanted. It just puts things in perspective of how different it is in other countries, and how some people view us. It kind of, we can see on the news, we can see that some people don't view us in a positive light, but there are plenty of countries that look at us as a model and think that what we have is something to emulate and look up to. And I think that's pretty powerful stuff. I was 19, 20 at the time, so it was pretty heavy. I was like, wow,
establish their armed forces because they're in an area that's under threat almost all the time.
Almost all the time, right? And that's the thing. If you see it where I think it's like a 2-year commitment. It's like you come out of high school with like a 2-year commitment, and it's expected. It's like the priority. You get to basically live your life after that service, but they need to have a strong military force because of an imminent threat that's always there. We don't look at it that way. I think we look at it, I joined the military, I did look at it like I'd be able to get college, I'd be able to do all these different things. It just so happened 2 years later, September 11th, changes my entire enlistment. But yeah, in a country like Israel where there's a realistic threat from a neighbor constantly, it'd be like if we had such a terrible relationship with Canada, right? And we always had to be on guard for them. Somebody who's that close to you, and we're fighting over Toronto. We were just constantly fighting over Toronto. Then our life would be different. The way we lived every day. If you lived in Michigan, if you lived in Montana, if you were right by the border, you live in fear every day. And that's the life he was sharing with me a little bit. Was this coming to America was like special duty assignment for him, not just to be the prime minister's guard, but to be over there and have something that to feel safe was a big deal. And that's something they don't typically get to have.
They don't have a term called conscientious objector. Everybody there is conscious of the fact of where they live and why. You get out of high school, you got 2 years in the military, and you learn all about the military, and they turn you loose. Because if they have to mobilize, and there's a lot of things that are going on over there, if they have to mobilize to protect something, everybody's already trained and ready to go. There's no draft. You just come in.
It's like constant reserves.
Yeah, that's right. You're constantly in the reserves, and you have equipment and everything else. So I don't know if they keep their weapons or not, but I don't know how it works either. But either way, be grateful that you live here, and be grateful for your history. A lot of people pay the price to do that, but your history teachers will tell you that the bullet points all the way through. There's a lot of history to talk about, and I hope you take some if you go to college, take history too. But this didn't happen overnight. We're 240 years, as a country, and then you look over in those areas across the seas. They've been around for their heritage that they can recall through their families and everything else. The history that's passed on from family to family, and not necessarily through schools. They create different philosophies and orientations that we don't expect here, because our founders put together a constitution, and it shouldn't be misinterpreted or liberally interpreted. It's basically there for a reason, and you have to basically understand that 240 years ago, these people were smart enough to put something together that's worked for 240 years here in this country, and this is the country we have. And all those opportunities, all those freedoms that we take for granted, other people paid for before us with their lives, and they were strong enough in their wills to understand that it was right, and they had the opportunities. And we have a very diverse country here, and this last year has been a tough time because it's the pendulum swings back and forth, and this last year the pendulum went far one way and far the other way, but we have to put it together, and you people are going to be part of putting it all together. And it's really not as disastrous as it sounds on television. I mean, that's overblown, but the idea is that you still have to make up your minds and understand, and that's why you go to schools, to understand history, and understand all that stuff. But when I was sitting in your seat back there, I'm sitting there going, some teacher was talking to me, I'm getting maybe 10 or 15% of this, and then all of a sudden, when you start living it, and you start going to school, then your world gets bigger, and you start meeting people and so forth, then you understand really where we came from and why we want to preserve the lifestyle we have and the freedoms we have.
Well, I know that being in the military forges these very strong type bonds. What kind of friendships have you guys formed, and what, like, do you still keep in contact with any of the people that you served with?
Yes, but I mean, I have my squadron mates. We go to reunions about every 5 years, and we had a random reunion where all the kind of drivers went out there in San Diego. Just last night, the Marine Corps' birthday was yesterday, 241 years. The Marine Corps was formed before the country was formed, and so was the Army. But last night I was in a tuxedo at the Ruth Chris Steakhouse with my buddies that were from Glenview, that were in Vietnam, and so forth and so on. And we're all talking about this. We get together all the time. We share stories. We shared them before, but I mean, we got to know each other's family. We call it the Marine Corps family, and basically that's what it is. And every year we watch ourselves get older. We still talk about the same stories. And actually, one of our buddies just got represented or got elected as a congressman from northern Michigan. And we were just same old guys doing our thing. He got there, but we have tight bonds. And in every organization I belong at, this last month, we're up in Milwaukee. People flew in from all over the place. We did a brewery tour and all that stuff. But people that were in my infantry battalion, they're all over the country now. And everybody's done their own separate thing. We come back. We never forget. Those are bonds that I value. You may develop these somewhere, and I know he's got them too. And but you relate to this stuff and appreciate everybody else's contribution. And we're brothers. We're just basically a band of brothers, and we include our families and everything else. And the values go along with it. You take the responsibility to do like things, you go for it. That's it. And we all suffered. We lost friends, things like that, and we lose them now. So yes, that's a bond.
Steakhouses and brewery tours. That's why I'm gonna leave that off as like a Facebook post to like our group that we have of guys from Andrews. Same thing. Like, when is this happening? We need to do more of them. But something like Facebook though, for my group of friends is really kind of finding a way to kind of keep up with each other as we're all having our families and people are changing careers. And when I talk to some of my friends in the military, find out I'm an English teacher now. They're like, some are like, what? And others are like, like that was always more of who you are. That was always more of who you are than who you were there. But I mean, that's the best part of it is that I haven't seen some of these guys since I got out, and that was 11 years ago. But if I saw them today, I would stop everything and pick right back up. And people from all over the place, people that you would never think that you would be so important in your life become so important in your life. And my growing up happened with these people. I grew up. I was 18. I was 18, and we were figuring out what life was. And that was with them through some things that were tougher than others. And you do lose people that you care about, and losing people that come home and get done, and then are having a hard time adjusting. All kinds of different things like that. But I think the thing I never really expected was this to be a part of something like this. I never really thought any of that through. To be able to have days like today and to be able to talk to other people, we're a part of a group of people, and it'll always be that way. And I think it's one of the few things to think that it's all a little much. It's all a little much. Like it's still surprising. But I'm always so fascinated by other people's stories. I look forward to hearing those things, because we all have a little bit of an understanding, and that's something that's unique about that, and the bonds that not only I have with people that I was with, but then people I come to know that are something similar. So, yeah.
Any favorite memories of times you've had serving?
There's a lot. I think it would always come back to like my friends, like things that me and my friends would do together, and things we would see. Um, you know, playing cards and laughing for a 12-hour shift. Um, I don't ever feel like my experience in the military was somber or too hard or anything like that. If anything, I gained so much from it. But my memories would always, my favorite memories are always surrounding with my friends. And if I think of something, I can always, things that we did in the Air Force One hangar, things I can't even say that we did. They're funny. They're just those fond memories I have that I could send in a text message to my friend Corey in Round Rock, Texas, and he would be laughing. And that's what it's all about.
I got a lot, but I guess, and I relate to what Patrick's saying, is that your first memory is your youngest one where you didn't know anything about anything else, and you were all with a group of other people, and we were all doing something to either impress each other or be funnier than the other guy or whatever. I guess it's flying upside down in the Grand Canyon and that big Crusader.
Never did anything else. That was awesome. That would clearly be my favorite one. That's awesome.
The only reason I bring it up is because I was on a cross country. We did these cross country flights, so we flew from California to Salt Lake City, Utah, and I had heard that people before me had done this, and this was a single seat jet fighter with an afterburner, and so we went there, and I was flying on this major's wing, and I was just a lieutenant, first lieutenant. And what happened was his airplane had a mechanical problem, and he couldn't fly it back. So he took my airplane and flew it back to El Toro, and he left me there. So I'm sitting there, and then they got to fly in parts to fix my airplane, or the airplane I was going to fly back. So 2 days later, I get this airplane, and they couldn't fix it, so they had to tow me on the runway. It had to do with the nose wheel steering, so they had to tow me on the runway, just point me down the runway, and then lit the afterburner and took off. So I did this, and then I was remembering about these guys saying, well, I flew upside down in the Grand Canyon once, so I got to do this. So I get out there, and all of a sudden I turn off what a transponder is in an airplane. That's where their traffic control, you put down the signal device, it tells them who you are and where you're going. So I turn it off.
That's not a good idea, too. Like, you're not really supposed to
On the deck. So I'm down there, flying there, and then all of a sudden the Grand Canyon, gradually from the north it opens up, and it's, if you ever get a chance to go see the Grand Canyon, they have these places in Arizona and so forth. Do this. Do it. It's gorgeous. It's one of the wonders of the world. But anyways, so I said, okay. So I started edging down in there, and then I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So it was wide at that time, so I had plenty of room. And I go down, and I said, okay. So in the F-8 Crusader, you can't fly upside down for a long time because the oil stars and the engine will flame out. So, but if you're pulling G one way or the other, that's not a problem. But if you're just going to fly straight upside down, you can't do that. So I only had a short period of time, so I get down underneath the Grand Ridge and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. So I roll upside down, and I'm sitting there going, I'm upside down in the Grand Canyon. I'm going 500 knots. And then the canyon turns. I said, oh, did like that, pull back on